Hey guys, today's video is going to be an input analysis of the primary inputs that I use on my farm. So I'm identifying those as fertilizer, compost, and water. So I don't have seed in here, I don't have labor, it's just like the primary inputs that we use to grow crops. So the seed cost, I'll just tell you, we spend about $3,000 on seed a year. And probably half of that, maybe even a little more than half of that, is microgreens. So there you go if you were curious. But I really want to analyze these three. I've done a video on water consumption in the past, and I'll link to that video if you guys haven't seen it. I did it last year, and I'm actually going to analyze the same plot this year as I did last year, but I also want to bundle in the fertilizer and compost costs as well. Now, the primary reason I'm doing this is actually entirely for myself. I like sharing this information, but I also like to stack functions. Like, I'm happy to provide content for you guys, but my primary motivation to making this content and figuring out these numbers is I'm actually in the market to buy a new farm. So I'm actually not looking to scale Green City Acres. Green City Acres is going to stay the way it is, but I'm in the process of looking for a new farm that will be an entirely different operation. I've been very inspired by what Jean-Martin Fortier has done at Les Fermes des Quatre Temps, and that's something that's something similar to what we're gonna do here. It's going to be 10 acres or more of a site. The market garden production of it probably be around 2.5, 3 acres. And it's going to be a totally ecological farm. I'm going to experiment with all kinds of stuff. This has been a dream of mine since the beginning. This is actually what I wanted to do when I first got into farming. The challenge is when you don't have experience or money, it's really hard to do that. So I've had some success in what I'm doing, and I now have the means to be able to get this kind of operation going. So it's going to be a bit of everything. You're going to see, and I will keep you guys updated at the whole process, and I'm really excited to vlog about the whole process once I find the right place to farm. But you're going to see all kinds of permaculture design, or the best things that I've seen in permaculture design. I've got some of the best people in the industry who want to help me with this, and you're going to see all kinds of experimentation. Really what I'm trying to do with this site is not only make a farm that is larger than Green City Acres, but it's going to be an education center. That's like actually the primary thing, is it's going to be an education center. I'm going to bring in other types of speakers and other types of teachers, other kinds of farmers, and have it all. I want to do all kinds of stuff. But primarily it's going to be profit driven. It's going to be, the production of the farm is going to be mainly centered toward things that I know very well, which are the things that Green City Acres done. So my plan here is to see if I can 10x what Green City Acres has done. So if I say we do 100,000 on a quarter acre, which is correct, our net in there right now is about 55%. Can I 10 times that and get the same returns at the same input costs? And that's the motivation behind me analyzing all this information. These are my water bills, to see if what my costs are going to be. So one thing that's challenging when you're looking for a new farm, especially if it's in a rural or peri-urban setting, is your water doesn't come from the city. Big surprise, right? But there are seriously limiting factors to that. And this is, as I've gone through this process of the last little month, like looking at different places, I've seen how convenient city water is. Yes, some people criticize city water for chlorine or things like that. We don't have fluoride in our water. We have very little chlorine. So as far as we're concerned here in Kelowna, our water's great. But this is a major consideration. So I've been looking at properties that have wells, and they produce like 3 gallons a minute, which is insignificant for agriculture, especially this kind of farming. And once you see my numbers in water, you'll certainly see why. But it's a big factor. So what my whole goal with this thing was to basically create a metric that I could apply to another farm to say, hey, if you've got this much water coming off, I'm going to need this much. So that's where the water analysis of this whole thing starts with. So let's get into it. Let's review the numbers. First, I want to start with our fertilizer. So if you guys follow my vlogs or you've read my book, you know that we have two kinds of fertilizer that we use on the farm. One is a dry fertilizer. That is what we use between rotations of crops, and then we use compost, and that's really the majority of the organic matter that goes into our soil. We're using all of our inputs regarding compost and fertilizer are certified organic inputs. Our farm isn't certified organic, and there's many reasons for that. Search my videos if you want to know why that is, but this farm isn't certified organic. The new farm might be, so I'm not totally sure yet, but needless to say, our fertilizer inputs are this dried fertilizer, which is a product called Sustain. I've used different products over the years. I like this one. It's basically a composted turkey manure, and it's a nitrogen-based fertilizer. We used 18 bags of it this year, and they cost $52.50 Canadian per bag. It's a 50-pound or 22.7 kilo bag. We spent $945, tax included, on those fertilizer inputs that year. So that's not that much for the type of crops we're growing, or the inputs, or for the output that we're getting from the operation. Now, the primary input is our compost. We use 28 cubic yards of compost this year. We spend $37.50 per cubic yard. So that's a total of $1,050 to cover our farm. Now, our farm has effectively 65 50-foot beds. So I have some beds that are shorter, but what I've done is I've combined all the linear feet of all the beds and then divided that by 50, and then I've arrived at that number. So that's the total size of our farm, is 65 50-foot beds. And we used 0.43 yards per bed. So that's just over an inch of compost on each bed for the entire season. I think I'd like to scale that up, actually. I think I would be willing to double that for next year, or close to it, and put on 2 inches or more of compost each year. So that's how it worked out. You know, we put compost on at the beginning of the season, and then sometimes we put a mid-season application, but then we use that fertilizer in between rotations. And I've done lots of videos on that before, not hard to find if you just use the search on my channel. So let's talk about the water. That's what these bills are. This is what I've been analyzing, and this has been the primary concern for me when I'm looking for new land, is like, how much water do I actually need to use to grow greens and the types of crops that we do. So my total water cost for the entire year that I pay for is on 2 plots. My home base right here, where we do all of our washing. We have our nursery. We also have some crops that we're watering here. We spent, it was $700 for the home base. So that number is kind of useless because I have a family, and that water is counted for, you know, the water we're using at home and to bathe our daughter and stuff like that. So it's not really that usable. But I took our flagship plot, which is that 5,000 square foot plot I've done in lots of my videos, and this is also the same plot we did the video of the water consumption last year on, so maybe you could compare and see if there's a difference. But we used at that flagship plot a total of 403 cubic meters of water. So that's how water is measured on our bills here. And you guys in the US, it might be gallons or it might be kilogallons or something like that. So that equivalent in gallons is 106,460 gallons. That's what we use to water all those crops. So there's 960 bed feet at that plot. So total up all the beds. There's some 50-foot beds and there's some 36-foot beds in the greenhouses. We get 960 bed feet at that plot. So what that breaks down to is 0.41 cubic meters per 1 foot per 1 linear foot in bed. So that's how that breaks down. You could also say it's 20.8 cubic meters per 50-foot bed, and or in gallons that would be 5,500 gallons per bed per year. Or to give you more options, 111 gallons per linear foot in bed per year. So now keep in mind here, this plot has very sandy soil. It had really low organic matter in it when I started developing it, none basically. We are in a high and dry desert climate here in the Okanagan. We're a zone 6B. We have a high evaporation rate, and I am in the city where I do have a heat island effect. That means it's hotter in the city than it is outside the city. So keep in mind that all these numbers are variable to that, right? This is, I'm going to use this as a basic benchmark, but it doesn't mean that these numbers couldn't be reduced by half, because you could increase organic matter in your soil, you could change your irrigation, you could do more effective things in the summer like using shade cloths. You know, there's a variety of different things you could do to reduce your inputs. But our water costs aren't that high here. Like that 403 cubic meters of water only cost about $300 for a season. So it's not really a big cost, knowing that on that site we can get $20,000 to $30,000 of crops out of that site. So not a huge cost. But I thought I would share this with you guys, just kind of keeping the loop of what I'm doing. I'll certainly keep you guys posted on developments. If I find the right property and I make the move, I'll keep you guys updated. I'm really excited to vlog about the whole process of converting a new property into a farm and all the trials and tribulations that go along with it. I'm super stoked, but it's not gonna be until I find the right place, and I'm willing to take my time with this, because there's a lot out there. And you know, it's like, I tell people this all the time: the world is not short on land. The world is short on farmers. And so if you have the skills and ability to run a farm, you are the asset. You are the one that's scarce and valuable. So that's how I feel now as a person going in to buy land. You know, I never thought I would have the means or the ability to do this kind of thing, but I do, and it's exciting. But it's taken time to get to this point. It's taken 8 years of me working really hard, 100 hours a week or more, to build the skills, but also have some money saved that I could actually afford this kind of mortgage to get this kind of land, because it's expensive here. It's not cheap. But anyways, keep you guys in the loop. Hope you found that useful. We'll talk to you later.